Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tayte. I say once more, bringing back Tayte. And joining us once more is Charlie. I'm just going to say, I haven't even told anyone on this, who has covered Tayte fantastically whilst he has been in the mountains of Austria. So thank you for that. And of course, we are here to do a spoiler discussion on season 4 of Stranger Things. It's a show you might have heard of recently. You might have heard some music in the charts thanks to it, and a lot of other things. Let's be blunt. If you haven't heard about this show in the last month, you've probably not existed, because I've got parents who don't watch this who even know about this now. So it's been one of the biggest shows of the year. Before we get into any of that, how are we both doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good. Back again, ready to talk about films and, of course, Stranger Things, which just somehow seems to end up every single time it releases a new series just taking over everything. And I don't know how they're able to do it each time, the Duffer brothers, but it just seems to go that way every single time they release a new series. Just fantastic.
Oh, sorry, Charlie, we're on mute.
Oh, I was on mute. And
Sorry, that's my bad.
So important. Yeah, I'm good.
That's great. No, that's my bad. I forgot. I've not been used to 3 people live for so long. I was like, oh no, I can't. I've left it on mute. That's my bad.
At least it wasn't anything I did wrong.
No, it's absolutely fine. But sorry about that. I forgot where we were. But to get things back on track, Tayte, if you want to tell the people of the socials and all that kind of stuff on the intro, then we'll give some little thoughts after.
Yeah, sure. So, everyone, comment below with your thoughts on Stranger Things. Of course, this is our spoiler discussion of this, so we are going to be... This chat is open. Like, people who are commenting along, people who are commenting afterwards, you can put whatever spoilers you want in here. There is a spoiler-free discussion, which we also have on the channel already. So if you want spoiler-free content, go to that one. If you want the spoiler stuff, the stuff we're going to be going kind of deep into the Upside Down today, all over this series, then please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the normal things. And also follow us on all of our social media. So on Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and Letterboxd, that is Cinema Savvy. And go on to Redbubble to pick up a t-shirt, cap, pillow, coffee mug. They do everything on there. So many different things as well. Also, follow Charlie on For the Old World X.
Yes, everybody do that. And whilst we've got you on, Charlie, this is the first, not the first TV we've had you on for, but this is the first Stranger Things video we have. For anybody that doesn't know you or follow you or whatnot, how... I'm laughing because I know. How big are Stranger Things are you? Because we're bringing you as our experts tonight as the sort of opening regard for that.
To put it in a scale, I had to get my friends to convince me not to get a Stranger Things tattoo today. That's how much I love Stranger Things and how dangerous this obsession is getting. But yeah, I love it. I've been watching it since it first aired. Anyone who knows me knows I'm obsessed with the 80s. So like it instantly grabbed my attention, and I'm obsessed. Absolutely, undeniably obsessed.
Can I just ask what the tattoo would have been?
Yeah, I was going to ask that as well.
So for a long time, I've wanted the 11, but I've kind of gone off that idea, and then spoiler, I wanted to get Eddie's bats, and I'm still quite tempted, but we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm cool enough to pull them off, really.
Just hold on. Wait till season 5, because we'll get to that at the end. And that's what I'm saying. We're going to do a little chat on season 5 at the end, but I'm scared of TV shows in case we get into the Game of Thrones ending. Not to say that's not, some people do like that ending, but I'm very cautious about TV shows. Unless it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is already on the wall, because that's a miniseries done and dusted.
Well, I have no concern. Like I'm kind of used to living with the worry because I have a Marvel and a Star Wars tattoo. So like, and we all know they could go wrong at any moment. So I'm kind of willing to take the risk.
And speaking of Marvel, there will be a review for Thor: Love and Thunder tomorrow. Me and Tayte will be on that one. And we'll have more details probably tomorrow or tonight. We'll find out. But that is obviously out in cinemas in the UK first, which we always appreciate. And it's going to be very interesting based off what I've been reading about it today. And I'm also going to say to anybody joining us at the moment, especially if you're based in the United Kingdom, there's a lot of things happening right now. There's a cheer live on air. It might be due to some politics, but if you're here to get away from the politics, we won't bring it up unless it has to be brought up. So I just want to say that a lot of people are watching the news, which is understandable. But I also appreciate you joining in for a Stranger Things discussion because, this will be the penultimate spoiler one until season 5 comes out, potentially in 2024 or 2025, which we'll know in a few years' time. But aside from that, I guess it's worth jumping in where we began. So obviously we had 2 reviews for season 4 on the channel already. We had spoiler-free ones, volume 1, me and Tate, volume 2, myself, because Tate was traveling, and we haven't had Charlie on. So I'm going to quickly ask Tate your very initial thoughts on volume 2, and then Charlie, just your thoughts on season 4 as a general up front.
Volume 2 has some fantastic moments, but I don't think it's as good as Volume 1 from this series. I think Volume 1 really outdid itself and really set up for a massive finale. And I did enjoy the finale to this one, but I don't think it was as good as the setup that came before it. Discuss.
Oh, I just don't even know how I can sum up this series, really. It's been an emotional roller coaster. To say that I cried in that finale would be an understatement. I think me and my flatmate could have probably done with group therapy after seeing the final episode. But no, I think it's been great. I think they've really taken a turn with a lot of the characters. They've in a realistic way, they've made a lot of the characters grow and change their personalities, which I think is really like I say, really realistic for teenagers. I think we all did change so dramatically in those few years. So I think that's great, and introduced an absolutely incredible villain, which it needed, because they need to keep trying to up themselves, and they managed to do it. And yeah, I loved every second of it.
No, that's really well said, and it's going to be really interesting, especially when it gets to the villain. So for anyone at home, we're going to split this up into 3 sections. We're going to cover each of the main storylines. We're going to begin with California. We're going to then head over to Russia and then to Hawkins. So we're going to try and group it together a little bit like the show did. But it's very interesting what you said there, Tate, because I have seen a lot of people say similar things, especially I think when you wait 4 weeks, 5 weeks for the last 2. And I just want to also, I don't want to moan about social media, but I always do, but it's really disturbing that at literally 12 p.m., 4 hours after the episode's release on Netflix, there were videos of major spoilers. I finished watching it just before lunch. I went on Twitter to see if anyone put anything, and people I don't follow, people that hadn't liked it that I follow or hadn't retweeted it, I was having clips coming up on my feed, and I hadn't been searching Stranger Things. It was coming up on my scrolling feed, and it was we're doing spoilers in that now, but it was like Eddie's death, and it had Vecna going out the window. I was like, how is all this coming up within minutes? And it's just maybe it's a criticism of social media, but also the culture around spoilers, that people are so desperate to see things. All they care about is to then get the likes and retweets from it, and it's frustrating because, Charlie, I know you had to wait till
the evening. No, I watched it on Friday, but we had to wait until after work. So,
and then Tate, you were across a few days,
right?
I
was basically traveling at the time, so I did manage to get it all watched within one day, but I was doing it pre-travel, and then I kind of had to take a pause. And interestingly enough, we've already discussed it kind of previously, but the way the episodes are split and the kind of long length of the finale and stuff like that going into it, where there would be a final episode, if there was an episode split in that final episode, that's exactly where I stopped it. And then I did the final 40 or so minutes afterwards. So that's the where everyone's in the dire situation, and it suddenly cuts to black, and I was like, well, that's where the episode ends. There should be another episode here, and that's where I was like, you know what, here's a good point to pause it, because I need to now go now, and then I managed to watch it at the end. But that's kind of, I knew for a fact that even though I was traveling that day, I did have to watch the entire thing in one go, because I knew that if I wanted to have any presence online, go and check my Facebook, go and check my Instagram or anything like that whilst I'm traveling, I knew if I went onto those things, there's going to be spoilers there, whether I like it or not. And that is a reflection of kind of social media and how big this show is, that people who don't talk about kind of pop culture and don't talk about normally this TV show, suddenly they're blurting it out to the world, and it's suddenly kind of that thing. So immediately, as soon as I watched the end of the episode, the end of the piggyback episode, I immediately saw on Instagram some people already posting like R.I.P. Eddie and the Eddie kind of Metallica song as well. So a lot of people already posting things online. straight after I'd watched the episodes, and I didn't even like. It's one of those things where I'm not really following film Twitter too much, but that still came up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, my older sister's currently traveling France. She's on holiday for like 9 days. I think they set up Saturday morning, and she couldn't watch it on Friday. I got a text yesterday like, I've had it all spoiled all over Facebook. She's not big on film or TV or anything like that. And what I did see is that the official Netflix social media accounts and Strange Things social media accounts were posting videos. I'm like, can I even give people like 2 days? Like,
Even some of the cast, have
Yeah.
been posting stuff too, which, like,
it's weird. It's
kind of get it from their perspective, but at the same time, I'm like, just give it a few days, give it a week or something.
Yeah, like even with Kenobi and Disney, they're all. I think Disney's set rule for all their shows is the Monday after the Wednesday is when they do the posters and the photos and stuff. And
Oh yeah,
it's just bonkers. It's really bonkers. So you got a promo like that because I know that's not about the quality of the series. That's more about maybe its marketing and whatnot. But if we head into California, so again, it's the first time. I was saying this to Tate before we started. We haven't really done this since Game of Thrones, where we're talking about a show based on its geographical location. So we're going to try and fit the whole storyline in for each one. And if we're thinking of the first one, I guess this is primarily following 11, Mike, Jonathan, other characters. Will, sorry, I'm going to
Argyle.
Argyle, another new character, and what I kind of want to go with, because we haven't formatted this like every plot point we're going to talk about. I just want to get everyone sort of vibes with the idea of the storyline. We know that 11 needs to get her powers back. And we know that there's going to be this threat that's going to have to build towards. Now, I didn't know. I'm just going to say straight away that Papa was in this. I don't know if they'd been announced he was coming back. So at the opening scene, I was like, whoa, like, okay, we've got him back. I haven't seen him in much since the Dana Rises. But it's a really interesting one. But overall, that storyline, it wasn't one I was invested in as much as the others, if I'm going to be really blunt, only until they got her back in the tank. But I guess the thing is you have to have her, you have to see their lives without her powers to be able to then understand how important it was to get them back, because there were some really mixed things with it. I don't know if that sounds unfair, but that's just my initial thoughts. I don't know how you both feel with it as well.
Yeah, with the California storyline, I just found it really it was a real mixed bag. I enjoyed some parts of it. I enjoyed some characters with it. And obviously the writers knew what they were doing with some of the characters. 11's kind of story there was quite nice to kind of have her build back up her powers and to be able to go through that journey of kind of self-reflection, kind of looking back on her past, and also dealing with Papa and also dealing with kind of Sam. It just like, it made it kind of nice that it would come full circle and she would kind of build up her powers for the biggest fight of her life. Other characters in that storyline, I'd say that Noah Schnapp was fantastic as Will. Given the small amount of screen time that he was given for his character, phenomenal acting, really sold it, really solid character work there. I do want to go in a bit more on that because they finally fleshed out his character a little bit more. I know he had a bigger role in Series 2 and then he dropped back in Series 3. But now that they're kind of giving him a little bit more work, a little bit more things to talk about and stuff like that, especially with kind of the subtle hints towards his kind of LGBTQ plus kind of presence within the storyline, it was brilliant the way they handled his character. But they didn't know what to do with any of the other characters. I don't know if they really knew what to do with Mike. I don't think they knew at all what to do with Jonathan. They just kind of turned him into a stoner with Argyle, and that was kind of their characters just as a whole. There was nothing else there. But what they did with both 11 and with Will was brilliant in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, Mike has been my favorite character from day one, and maybe he had a bit of disservice in this series, but I have argued this with many people since it came out. It's realistic. Like, okay, I was never a teenage boy, so I can't quite vouch, but he's so confused. He wants to admit to being in love with Elle, but he's too scared to say it. He's dealing with his girlfriend and his best friend living on the other side of the country. Indiana to California is a really long way. Like, that's like, we can't even compute how far that is being from England. Like, that's like basically traveling to the other side of Europe for us. So I think so he's not necessarily the loyal best friend that he was when he was much younger, but he's got his own shit going on, and Will can't expect him to put all of his shit to one side to look after him. Like, Will has to deal with his issues either being much more open and being much more like on the nose about things, or he needs to deal with them on his own until he's ready to, you know, properly come out and properly talk to his friends and his family about it. He can't put that weight on Mike. That's not fair. That's not Mike's job. So I will defend Mike for as long as I have to, because I still think he's a great character. I also really love Jonathan. I've loved him all the way through as well, even when, okay, he's a bit creepy in season 1, but he kind of redeems himself. And yeah, it was a bit of a weird path to take him on, the stoner teenager. But I have to say, I'm so glad he's finally found a best friend, because he didn't have really any friends up until this point. So I guess that's something that we can take away from that. But I'm excited because the Duffer brothers have announced that Will is going to be the center of the story for season 5, which is really exciting. Let's bring him back to the forefront. He's clearly still dealing with whatever it was he went through in season 1 and 2. And he's got a connection to Vecna. So it's going to be quite fun to see what they do with that and where they take Will.
Yeah, it's really fascinating we actually getting some of the Will stuff, because I've seen obviously a lot of discussion online that maybe in between volume 1 and 2 they were sort of like, oh, you know, we'll find out about Will's future. And I've seen, I don't want to say people doing a backlash, because that sounds like it's dramatic when it's not, but I've seen a lot of people, obviously of the LGBTQ plus stuff as well, sort of saying that it shouldn't be a big plot point for him to potentially come out, which I hadn't thought about in that way. And I thought, you know, that does make a lot of sense. And then I think the Duffer brothers kind of back down saying, well, it's not going to be like that. It's going to they've kind of teased it'll be something that comes later on, which I also understand. I think it can be taken out of context. I might have done that myself, if I'm being honest, because it's a very tricky thing, especially Tyler, what you said, you know, you weren't a teenage guy, you couldn't go through stuff. I mean, I'm not obviously part of that as well, so I can't imagine what it was like. And let's go contextually. This show's set in the 80s, so coming out then, let alone like now, is so different. And what I would say is this series, we'll know in a few years' time, will be probably quite eye-opening for younger people. I mean, I don't want to say like we're the target demographic for Strange Things. I think it's a sort of universally appropriate show. Like, I know people of all ages that watch it, but I would say like primarily it's that like mid-teens. Is that a fair assumption? Like that stands, as they call themselves, that sort of demographic. And you know, there'll be people that might come out over the years or go to this in that regard. And I think it could be quite noble in that respect. And I'd say that volume 2 certainly delivered upon the Will stuff a lot more. And Jonathan, as you said, I felt like he was really in news, because I love him in the series. He's one of my favorite characters. And we got the amazing scene with him and Will in, I can't remember if it was, I never know what chapters what, except chapter 4, like, because I did 8 and 9 together and it went on for so long. When he's speaking to him in the pizza thing, and he says, you know, I'll go through your problems, you're back to being brother, etc., etc. That was a really big moment for me, because at that point I felt, okay, like Jonathan might have had much to do, but he just had one of the biggest moments of the season in terms of storytelling and drama, and it was a really nice thing. But yeah, it's a really fascinating one, because I think with Noah, he just didn't get a lot to do. And I'm just going to point to something really obvious, and you've probably seen the same meme online 100 times. It's the hair. The hair is so distracting.
But the hair is what it was for the time, and it's iconic to his character at this point. You can't see him with a different haircut.
It's the new. Have you seen the new? Have you seen the new meme? Have you seen the new meme though? It's like what Will's point of view, it's him crying in the car, and it's like Mike's point of view, it's like a finger with the hair on it. It's so funny. And you know, again, it's a minor gripe, and you know the show's done all right when your minor gripe is hair. But
I think his hair looks better in this season than it did in the previous seasons.
It's like,
at least it's kind of styled.
It's like, I think the joke is that he's had the same haircut, but he's kind of just grown with the hair the same.
He's grown so much as well. Like he's built. He's like a tank now compared to, he looked about 8 years old all the way through it until season 4, and now all of a sudden he's just an adult. It's so weird.
Dare I say, they've been quite clever with the way they've done time jumps in the series. And kind of the gaps between the different series and stuff like that, because obviously the characters do age up, and it was always going to be the case with this show that the characters would grow older, they would get more mature, and the storylines would have to move with that. And it just seems like these actors were almost kind of perfect for the roles from the start, even for their older selves, like the younger ones. And yeah, as they've grown through it, I guess Will's haircut hasn't grown, but you can tell as a character he's grown, and that's really what matters.
He definitely doesn't have the worst hair in the series. Mike's hair is definitely worse than Will's. Mike's hair is atrocious. Mike's fashion sense is atrocious.
It's
I
the
think that they
80s.
really
You can get away with fashion in the 80s.
No, because some 80s fashion is amazing, but Mike just looks like a train wreck. But I still love him.
Yeah.
It is interesting with him, and I think with Will, I know that I don't want to look too far ahead, but obviously the big thing for me was like when you saw the Alan Turing thing. Like I don't know if anyone else clocked it. It's like right at the start of Volume 1. It's like we're going to find out about Will's identity. It's like carries around an Alan Turing project in the 80s. Like again, this isn't a criticism. This is actually what I say is quite endearing, that it sort of took 70 plus years for Alan Turing to get the recognition he should have had 70 years ago. And for it to be, you know, we're all British, we live in England, to see it in a massive American series, to me is quite eye-opening in that regard. And seeing, obviously, you know, if anyone doesn't know his story, I'm not going to just say go check out The Imitation Game, which read up on his importance to like.
But also go and watch The Imitation Game, because it's amazing.
It's very good. But it's like modern history, like there wouldn't, you know, so much is owed to him, if we're being honest, and how he was treated by the UK after it's disgraceful. And you know, little things like that is the Duffer Brothers putting these signs in, and people might not know who that is or what that means, but we know. As I said, we're a bit older, we're aware of him, and I kind of like those sorts of things. And the one thing I'll say about the Duffer Brothers, like I don't say attention to detail, but there's always little things happening. There are things being teased. There are so many moments or individual parts of Strange Things that just build to it. You know, we'll get to him later, but Eddie and the tattoos of the bat on the arm, and obviously where his fate is who knows what might happen. And it's really interesting to sort of see what else they might tease with other characters. But yeah, I mean, I know that's a lot about Will, but do we want to speak about someone new before we get, I guess, to 11? Do we want to speak about Argyle? Because
Is there much to say?
Is there much to say?
I thought I'd have hated him, but I actually really enjoyed him, and this time
I really liked him. Yeah,
but it reminded me of, like, you know how like Taylor Lautner's career's gone off into like these sort of comedies. It kind of reminds me, like, if Taylor Lautner wasn't shredded when he did Twilight, like he would have been Argyle like 10, 15 years ago. Like I had so much fun with him. But again, like he's so minor. But as you said, Chad, it's nice that Jonathan gets a friend and he gets like something to do. And now he's, you know, he's not dead. And is he there at the end? Is he going to? He
is there at the end. So I've got predictions here. He's either going to end up being the character that has an heroic sacrifice in the next series, he'll die, or he's going to be the crazy dude who tells the story of what happened in Hawkins afterwards because he's the only survivor. There is no middle ground. So the final
scene will be Jonathan in his 80s just telling everyone what happened.
No, not Jonathan. Argyle. Argyle.
Oh, sorry,
like
Argyle,
smoking a reefer and going, bro, you should have been there, man.
Like a bonfire.
That's how I envision it. It's like it's one or the other. He's going to die a hero doing something that you would never expect him to do, or he's going to be like on the reefer, like in a drum circle, telling the story of what happened in Hawkins. It's one of those two.
Oh God, I hope he doesn't die.
You really could.
Shame.
And like, I mean, we'll get to deaths later in season 5, but I've got a lot of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows vibes about where we're heading with Stranger Things, but I'll get to them later on. But yeah,
I have no idea what that means.
Well, I just think it means we're going to get a massacre. You know, we have the massacre at Hawkins Lab by definition, but I think we're going to have the massacre in Hawkins next time, which will be like
kind of already happened.
Yeah, I mean, we got one of we'll get to later. We got one of the most insane deaths of the TV year that half the people missed, which really surprised me. But we'll get to him because that was like gruesome for again like 11:30 in the morning. Well deserved though, but I mean, if we're sticking with California stuff, do we want to talk about 11? You know, I'll pass over to you guys first. But how do you feel with the whole arc? That's, I guess, if we try and keep not Vecna out of it because he's so important, but having to like rediscover her past or her history and regaining the powers. up to I guess the helicopter coming down, which was pretty badass, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, she was. It was more of like a journey season for her. I don't want to make it seem like it was kind of harking back towards the lost sister kind of region of kind of trying to discover herself and discover her past, because they're very different ways of handling it from the way it was handled in series 2 and the way it was handled in this series. I think having Papa back was a big thing for that, because it gave a nice point of reference that kind of she could go off, and it was all about kind of regaining the trust. Can she trust him? Can he trust her? And stuff like that. What the ulterior motives were and everything like that. But I think in general, 11's story in this series, slow to get going, but once it did get going, it was quite intriguing and gave us a lot of backstory and gave us a lot more to work with. And I was going to say, Millie Bobby Brown is such a good actor nowadays. Like, she is absolutely phenomenal, and she'll kill any scene that she's in. And you do sometimes forget that this character of Elle, she isn't fully integrated into society yet. And you get that at the very, very start of the series, where, like, I was expecting, because I've seen Millie Bobby Brown and other things since the last series of Stranger Things. I was like, oh, she's going to be quite competent with the world now. She's going to understand things. She's going to be talkative and stuff like that. Complete opposite. She's still that character who's not quite used to getting to the world, and now she hasn't even got her powers to back her up, so her self-confidence is even further down. And the way that was handled and the way it's able to be kind of grown back up, I just think it's just really, really well done on that side of things.
Yeah, I have always said I think she's the strongest performer in the series out of the kids. I think she absolutely nails it. That was just such clever casting. I think it's Carmen Cuba that casts Stranger Things. I think she has a lot as a person. Millie as a person has a lot to deal with, and I think she really just puts all her energy into her performance, which is, for someone so young and to have been thrown into the industry at such a young age, I think is really quite admirable. I think she really grounds the character, and she really just makes it her own with a character that really is created by the writers. I love her. I can't sing her praises enough. I think she's brilliant. I really like how her story was completely divided as well. We got to see her trying to survive life in an American high school and obviously really struggling with it. And then getting completely swept away from that and thrown back into what is actually her normality, which is really crazy to think that for most people it would be the other way around. I think her dynamic with the actor who plays Papa, I can't remember his name, is
Matthew Modine.
I think their chemistry on screen is just brilliant, and I think from what I've seen on Instagram and things, they actually have a very good relationship off screen as well, which is really nice to see. And I have to have a shout out for Dr. Sam Owens, because I think he's one of the best characters in it. And I think he gets completely forgotten about, but I think he's such a sweetheart, and he really cares about her, and almost in a way, in a kind of contrasting way, is the father figure in that situation, which is ironic given that she calls Papa. But yeah, she had a great story, great script to play with. I mean, some of her dialogue is just brilliant.
I mean, you've brought up Dr. Owens. Tate, I'm jumping to you straight away.
Yep, go for it.
We watched The Boys. I know you don't, Charlie.
Yes. No, I know he's in it, though.
The juxtaposition. So if anyone's curious about my viewing last Friday, I did Strange Things in the morning, Schindler's List in the afternoon, and The Boys in the evening. I wouldn't recommend doing that, if I'm being nice.
That's an interesting triple bill right there. That's such a wild ride. Oh my god!
I had to go after just to get some energy. And Paul Reiser rocked up in The Boys. I was like, was he just in Stranger Things, or am I starting to imagine things? Like, is this the same actor? And I was so confused. And then I started seeing on Facebook, like, as the days, I was like, okay, that's great. It's not just me. But I just want to say, because I was like, because I've not rewatched Strange Things 1, 2, and 3. Like, I've all seen every series once, and I did 1, 2, and 3 back to back in 2019, just after 3 came out, and then 4 for this. Now I know Charlie's seen it multiple times, but I think he was in some of the other series, right? I'm not wrong in saying that. I can't remember which series.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he's in 3 as well, and 2. He's in 2, 3, and 4.
That's fine. I probably have to rewatch them before the final season. That would make sense if I'm being honest. But yeah, just off some. I mean, you mentioned Millie Bobby Brown's acting. It's really fascinating. These that not often do you get these group of young actors that make it big off a show or a film or a series or something. And when you look at child actors and you can look at one and say they're destined to be like, this one's really just not, I don't mean it's not horrible, but you can look at them and say you're not going to actually be an actor, you're just going to be a child actor. And then you can look at some child actors and be like, you are going to be like a massive name. You're going to be like, basically look at Natalie Portman and Leon and say, you're going to win an Oscar one day. And she absolutely has. And she's one of the best actors I can stay in. I kind of see that with Millie Bobby Brown since I'm watching it, to be so young in the limelight so quickly. She's already producing stuff. She's done Enola Holmes. She's got so many projects on the go. She's got her own makeup and cosmetic stuff. She has an insane life for an 18-year-old, which is absolutely terrifying at the same time. And I think I know she's in the Godzilla stuff and all that, but it's really interesting seeing these actors, and so many of them are, Charlie, we spoke on Tayte yesterday, so many of them are really jumping into new projects that we'll get to say this thing later, but she isn't going to be in The Whale this year, which is going to be one of the potentially one of the big Oscar films. Yeah, and it's amazing seeing what these sort of these young actors are doing. In between that, Dustin's going to Broadway to do Evan Hansen, isn't he? So it's really amazing, and obviously Mike's in everything already. We don't need to worry about that.
Anything set in the 80s, they get Mike in for it.
I just think with Millie Bobby Brown, like, not that there something special, because that sounds really unfair, but I don't want to say she's outgrowing Strange Things, but you know how when a franchise ending, you're like, that person, not can't wait for it, but they're just going to spiral when this big thing is behind them, and that's fine for it to go behind them. They're just going to have this insane jump, and I feel like we're already starting to get that with her, and testament to her arc in this, because I don't think her arc was as interesting as other arcs. However, her performance lifted that arc for me, and her, I guess you could say, chemistry, as you said earlier, with Matthew Modine as Popper, with Dr. Emmons, and obviously Jamie Campbell-Bower as well. It's really interesting seeing that stuff, and I think because she's got so much to do and the others so little, the California stuff kind of fizzles, because you're getting some amazing stuff and then you're getting like a drier thing, like, we know they're going to find her eventually, but we want to spend our time with her. And I think when it does get to the end part of it, it does really work in its favor. I don't know how you feel with that, Tate, as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like personally for me, this storyline is the weakest out of the three, because the other two are very strong. And this one is average. It's not bad, it's just average. And the other two are excelling past their things. And that's not down to the actors that involved or the acting standards or anything like that. It's just that, the characters, the situations they're placed in, apart from maybe Will, they're not as interesting as they have been in previous seasons. I'd say that Mike's had better storylines from previous series, like seasons. I think season 1 was probably one of his best storylines that he's had. 11's been prevalent all the way throughout and has had really good storylines in each of the series she's had so far. This one was interesting, but dare I say, not as interesting as some of the other ones. And then you've got like Jonathan, who's kind of, once again, underused in this series, and he's only underused because he's been used very well in the previous series. So because of that, everything's dropped down slightly. Doesn't mean that it's bad at all, because it's still engaging, it's still brilliant. But the other storylines around it are so much better and so much more fleshed out and so much more intriguing. You know that 11 will she'll get her powers back probably, and she'll probably escape the facility, and they'll probably try and find a way somewhere for her to be able to connect to the Upside Down and stuff like that. So that's all kind of already written in your head. So at that point, you're just kind of waiting for that to happen. Whereas the other two storylines are completely unpredictable. You have no idea what's going to happen next, which is why I preferred them.
Yeah, I think as well, because this storyline had all of its action right at the start of the season. So you had like Millie fighting with her classmates. You had the scene where they come and take the kids away. Well, they take, I called her Millie, didn't I? With Elle fighting with her classmates. Yeah. And then they have all the authorities coming in and arresting her, and Joyce and Murray fly off to Russia. And all their kind of like really dramatic scenes happen right at the start. And then they start sort of easing out a little bit until the end. Whereas it's the reverse for the Russia and the Hawkins story. They're building up to the action. So, and I think that actually is incredibly good writing, because it really balances the series. But yes, of course, it does then leave Will, Mike, and Jonathan with a lot less to do. but there's so many characters now, and they've focused a lot on the new characters, particularly Eddie. And I think you can't have all of the characters front and center when you've got such a huge ensemble cast like this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, not to round off California, but as a kind of look at the whole series, the best character development they could have had is to split them up. I'm going to make a really random comparison to Empire Strikes Back. One of the reasons that works so well is that you take these three characters from the first film who works as a trio. You put Luke by himself in his own peril. You've got Han and Leia doing their own thing elsewhere, and they all get their own character development through alternate storylines. And this series really had that. You're able to build up a villain at the home in Hawkins. You go back to your protagonist, Elle, and getting her powers back, and you're not rushing everything. I think a lesser director or lesser showrunners would have, merged it into one big story, had Elle get her powers back at the end of episode 3, and then let's go fight and save the day in episode 8 or something. That's very common in shows. And it's, with this massive, group of actors and as well, and you've got to give them screen time. Splitting up has worked well, and even where the show ends, where we're going to go in series 5, we know it's going to all be in Hawkins. That's actually, to me, genius that they've been able to take characters in season 4 and put them elsewhere, because they were all able to have their own character development in their own storylines. We got Joyce at the forefront with Hopper. We got Max's storyline with Lucas and the others with Eddie, and then we had Elle, and everyone was able to get their moments to be at the front. Whereas if it had been groups, you're going to miss all of that because you're having to accommodate like a massive ensemble together facing one threat. And that would have worked if it was the final season, but this season was never going to be the final season. So even in that respect, it's kind of helped the next season already.
Do we have to say that this is like the Empire Strikes Back of the Stranger Things franchise, because it's the one where not only do they lose, they don't win, but also it's setting up for everyone getting together for the finale.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the Infinity War, the Two Towers, the Deathly Hallows Part 1, But there's nothing wrong with that, because the Duffer brothers are clearly fans of all those huge franchise stories, and they know what works. I mean, I think there are so many comparisons in Stranger Things to Lord of the Rings, like the fact that they have a fellowship, they have an end goal, they have a villain.
They name drop Tolkien.
They name drop Tolkien. I mean, they name drop literally everything. But
did you see that? Oh, sorry, Karen.
I was just going to say, they know that what the audience wants by the end is to have everyone back together. They know that and season 3 ended with them all disbanding. Season 4 has ended with them all coming back together. And they know that what we want to see more than anything is the awkwardness between Nancy and Jonathan and Steve. And we want to see Will and Mike coming back together with Lucas and Dustin. That's what we're waiting for. So they know exactly what their audience want, and that's what makes them such great writers.
And it's what I wanted to jump on is as well that trend where I don't know if you saw it, but before Volume 2, everyone's like, I really hope Eddie survives because he deserves to see Lord of the Rings in 2002, and everyone started saying like the character they want to see survive and what like historical event they want them to have lived through after.
The story of everybody wanting Will to be able to listen to Freak by Radiohead in the 90s. And it's like, yes, this is exactly what we need.
It's just, it is really exciting. It's a really good thing for the show that, it has taken social media by storm, that, Netflix's format, not getting into the whole weekly versus binge debacle, because there's pros and cons to every side of that. But for this, they've had word of mouth, and this, I will say, now it's been out less than a week, but this will be the one Netflix show that people don't stop talking about, and that's why there's been 4 seasons of it so far, and there's going to be a 5th.
It's their flagship show. There isn't another show that kind of draws in such a crowd worldwide. I know that Money Heist was huge and is the most watched. No, Squid Game is now the most watched, but this is their big old flagship that they can rely on. This is the first one that made it huge. It's massive.
100%. Yeah.
And it's marketable.
It's really the only thing. It's the only thing that keeps me as a Netflix subscriber. I'll be honest. Netflix to me is the weakest of the streamers at the moment. And this and the fact that I can watch Friends on constant repeat are basically the only reason I still have Netflix.
Isn't Friends on like every single streaming site though nowadays?
I think it is actually only on Netflix at the moment. And they know that is keeping a big percentage of their subscribers.
Yeah.
I am. See, my rule is I don't pay for Netflix. My sister does, and in turn, I pay for Disney Plus and Amazon Prime and
So
Apple.
your money is going to a much worthier cause.
Yeah, and it's mad that those 3 streaming services cost the same as the Netflix package, which is absurd as well. But if we jump to, I mean, do we want to talk about the Russia storyline?
Yes, very briefly.
Because I guess it's worth jumping in saying that, you know, season 3 ended with Hopper in Russia. That was the credit. Was it a credit scene? It wasn't.
It was
trailer,
like
was it?
It was a teaser. Yeah, he wasn't technically in the credit scene. It was just a Russian guy saying something about the American, but you didn't actually see Hopper. But then they dropped a teaser about a year later, and it was him working on was it like a railroad or whatever it was they were doing.
Like how long was the break between season 3 and season 4? Was it?
It was extended because of COVID.
In
it was
story, it's like
2 years.
In story, it's like 8 months.
Yeah,
I do remember. I was going to say I do remember the teaser being dropped almost over a year ago. It wasn't like a close run up to the thing. They dropped it in the middle of nowhere. I think it was to say we are filming or something like that. Maybe.
I think it was a year after season 3 finished. And I believe, I could be wrong, this is just what I've read online, but I believe the Russian story was filmed first. So that was all they had. So they just dropped it as like a little, don't worry, it is coming.
No, we are filming, don't worry guys, it's coming back, you know.
And then COVID happened, and then of course everything got messed up.
I feel like there was so many different theories as to how Hopper could have survived. Did he jump into the Upside Down and then come out the other end? Dare I say, I was quite disappointed by the way he survived. I was him just kind of being knocked to the floor, getting back up again, and then a Russian kidnapping him and shipping him off. It's like, so he was still in the US and they took him out the country. I thought it would have been more clever to be kind of going through the Upside Down and having that link there. But when it actually got through to the Russian storyline, I was quite intrigued straight away. First of all, because you have like Murray, who is just a fantastic character. I absolutely love him. He's bonkers mental all the time. Great. He's just fantastic. You pair him up with absolutely anyone. Joyce, the kids from the previous series, he was just great with everyone. You add him into the mix with Joyce and Hopper, and then you also throw in Tom Wachowski from Game of Thrones, who I knew as the faceless man.
Yeah.
We all just call him Enzo, even though it's not his name.
Well, that's what he's listed as Enzo on the thing. Is he known as the Russian or?
Well, I mean, Enzo is his code name, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the name of the restaurant they were going to have. That it's quite cleverly done, but he's definitely just being called Enzo now by everyone.
But no, the combination of all 4 of them and the way their kind of storylines kind of wove together, and the rescue attempt, and what actually happened in Russia, with kind of the Russian labs doing experiments on the Demogorgons and the Demodogs, and also the Mind Flayer. Really interesting. They go into that kind of side of things. I really enjoyed the battle of them in the prison against the Demogorgon, and kind of how to kind of fight it off and try to get them involved. Everything down to like the last meal before fighting it, and them going from, oh yes, we've been given all this food and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you're fattening up for slaughter, basically. But it was intriguing, that storyline. Loads of comedy, but loads of action as well. Always engaging, really fun.
And as always with Stranger Things, we just have to talk about the performances. I mean, Dave Harbour, if he wasn't made for this role, then I don't know, I'm lost, because he is just so perfect as Hopper, and he manages to have enough, he's funny, he's an action hero, he's got charisma, he's got emotion, he's such a good actor. And I'm a lifelong fan of Winona Ryder as well, so I just think she's wonderful in it. But yeah, it's a good storyline. As you were saying about the California one, I think this was my least favorite of the 3. I think I kind of felt like it was a bit obvious that, obviously Joyce and Hopper were going to end up together. Obviously they were going to escape the prison. I'm glad that Hopper was the one to kill the Demogorgon. I loved the scene where he had the sword. I thought that was so cool. It was proper, I felt like cheering, like I was watching some kind of sports game that really mattered. I was so excited about it. But also I loved that they managed to escape the prison only to realize they needed to be back in the prison. And it was funny and it was clever, but it was there was a lot of risk and there was a lot of threat. character that I really didn't enjoy at all was Yuri. I thought he played his part, but he was so gross and so annoying.
That's why I didn't mention it. When I mentioned the team, you noticed that I didn't mention him as
he
part
got
of that
missed
team.
out. I get what his purpose was, and like this, he aided the story in the way that he needed to, but I just didn't care about him at all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, this, because I enjoyed this more than California, but I also feel like it's the one that was maybe not like trimmed. It could have been trimmed more potentially, but it needs to span, the 9 episodes.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love David Harbour in this. I know he's on West End at the moment, isn't he? He's doing a stage play, and there's all the jokes we've seen that, oh look, it's not the first time he's played someone needing to escape a Russian prison. Obviously Black Widow, which
even he made that joke.
Yeah, and it's really interesting with this that it's just, as you said, the role he's made for this role, and I feel that it's not technically the first thing I've ever seen him in, because when you get these actors that break through when they're a bit older, and then it's like XYZ was in ABC. When you find out he was in Quantum of Solace, in one of the worst roles, which is not his fault 100%. It's before he'd made it, and I know he spoke recently about Hellboy. I know that was way after Strange Things, but he rang around. I was like, "How do you recover from a bomb?" It's kind of amazing, but he's born to play Hopper. He is definitively Hopper, and when you look at the cast, and this goes to probably all of them. I think bar Winona Ryder, who I say is Winona Ryder, that's probably because she is a massive, she's a big name. She's been around for so long, and this has been like the comeback for her. Everyone's sort of their character, when you're so attached to them in a role. And I just can't see him ever being anyone but Hopper, if I'm being blunt. And he's just saying, as you said, the scene when he gets the saws, and the way they synced that up in the finale is probably one of the best moments you've got. Running up the hill mixed with the Stranger Things theme. I don't know if that's ever been done before. Like they're mixing their own theme in an episode.
Yeah.
It's just like proper like fist bump moment. Like in America, that would be cheered out if it was at a cinema, and it just works so well to him. And it's just the character deserves it. That we all knew he wasn't going to be dead in season 3. Like he was always an endgame character, and you don't lose time with him being gone. I think his character has deserved his own arc. Maybe it went on a little bit longer. As you said, Yuri was. It took me a while. Like I didn't care when he 180'd at the end that he became Yuri, the great Soviet pilot after all, and all that weird stuff. But I just love Murray. I think Murray is one of the MVPs of the series. Every scene he's in this, he is outstanding. He
is going to go out in
moment.
a blaze of glory, isn't he?
Oh, 100%. He isn't surviving next series.
He's going to have one of the best deaths you've ever
he's gonna,
seen.
He's going to have a hero's death without it. I actually thought he was going to have a hero's death in this
with the
season.
flamethrower? Just
when there was one.
Yeah.
When there was
I
one
was
left,
so prepared for it.
Yeah.
When there was one left, I thought, oh my God, like he's done for here. And I'm so glad he lived. And if anyone seen that video going viral on Twitter, I think they're at a premiere or an event for this, and like he's randomly dancing really well for like 30 seconds.
And
everyone's been turning into like Strange Things memes. And in real life, it's not like a costume. Like he literally is Murray. Like he's got the mustache and the hair and the glasses. Like he's not been dressed up like some actors. And I just think he's great for him. The arc's better for it. And I want to say as well, David Harbour, like I didn't realize how much weight he lost for this as well. I think he lost about 3.5 stone, I was reading, which is insane. And he never looked big before, I'm being honest. I think he's always looked great. But when you see like how ripped and shredded he is now, and I think obviously losing the hair has probably made that look tougher as well. It's just amazing, like his dedication, and as well, like it's the big moment. It's him and Winona Ryder, finally getting to be together after however many years of waiting. And it's just, you get certain characters that you couldn't be happier for, and to me, he's right up there. That he deserved this arc, and I think when you get to reunion at the end as well, that's a big moment. And if his arc hadn't worked, if his performance across 4 seasons hadn't worked, that moment can't. But it's one of the nicest moments of the series.
No, I agree as well. Like that reunion towards the end is so emotional. Like,
I'm sorry, but if anybody wasn't crying when Elle said, "I left the door 3 inches," I mean, come on, what are they trying to do to me?
Dare I say, the impact of that, if they hadn't actually met up until the final series, and that be kind of the waiting thing for, would have been way bigger. But it was nice to have that moment in the series and kind of have it shown. I think it's a big comeback series for Hopper because, of course, starting as like the drunk cop of the town, kind of, and really, really downbeat and stuff like that, and then kind of almost getting a daughter in the shape of Elle, and then suddenly it being built, and then kind of having to go away. This was his big comeback, and it was fantastic to kind of see just his character be Hopper, be the hero the entire time. And just that character growth over the series has gone in hand with Joyce, and Joyce's character kind of becoming more and more badass throughout the entire series. And the characters are made for each other. That's guaranteed. Those two characters, everyone knew that they were always going to end up together by the end of the series. Even though we did have what's the name of the character? Really bad because he died. But it was Sean Astin.
Bob Newby.
Bob Newby. We did have Bob thrown in, but we all knew that Bob wasn't going to be there at the end.
But
we all knew that Hopper would be.
Putting Sean Astin in Stranger Things to me was just an absolute genius move.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they said he was going to be in it, I literally died.
Yeah, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. Did anyone else want to talk about it, or can I move straight on? That's the question.
No, we can move on.
Brilliant. So I want to move on to Bob and the other characters who have been joined in kind of the hero's gates. I want to talk about Hawkins, and we kind of said this previously as who the best new character is, and it's very clear. Everyone's agreeing. There isn't a single person who disagrees with this at all. The best new character, of course, is Eddie, and it seems like it's a running theme of the show, and it's the only thing that everyone pretty much predicted kind of going into it. You would get a new character that everyone would really get along with, really like, and they would kill them off. And they've done that 3 or 4 times now.
In every season, actually.
In every season, which is kind of the one gripe I have with the show. I think everyone wanted Eddie to stay. Everyone knew that Eddie was going, but I wanted Eddie to stay because Joseph Quinn, like his performance for Eddie was phenomenal. And I mean, even after just like the volume 1 came out, I've seen so many people walking around wearing Hellfire t-shirts. I've seen so many people getting Eddie tattoos and stuff like that. As you said, you were possibly going to get one. He has become a cult hero within this show, and he's only been in it for like coming in on the 4th series out of 5, and only in it for 9 episodes, going out in a blaze of glory and becoming that big of a kind of massive kind of hero and stature within the show. Absolutely phenomenal. Duffer Brothers, I know you're not going to do it because it's the final season coming up and stuff like that, because there isn't really any characters you can introduce into the story right now that would make such a big an impact that they would come to the same status as Eddie has. But please, if you can, revive Eddie somehow, some way. Secondly, just a writing thing, don't kill off the characters that people like. And I know that
they don't know people are going to like them, to be fair.
Oh yeah, they knew people were going to like it. Oh come on, they gave him a Metallica guitar solo. They knew that people would like him. They absolutely knew that people would like him. Like such a charismatic character. Of course, he was going to be well liked.
I am of the firm belief that we have not seen the end of Eddie Munson. He will be back. I mean, if he isn't back, then I quit. I quit everything because
you're a massive Stranger Things fan, but if they don't bring back Eddie, suddenly that's going to turn into like a riot.
No, I have absolutely no shame in admitting I ordered my Hellfire Club t-shirt today. That will be with me in 2 to 3 weeks. Eddie was the best thing they could have done. Stranger Things had a risk of people getting bored of it, but they bring Eddie in and it completely mixed things up. He's just an absolutely wonderful character. And there is a very strong theory that of how he could come back. So I'm riding that wave.
I've seen that strong theory as well. I'm also.
I think it could work. I think. Listen, we got Billy back, so even if it was a different role, we got him back in 2 episodes. So I wouldn't rule out anything for Eddie. And I've just got to say, like, as you said, Tate, for a new character to come in the penultimate season and steal it, and it's not an understatement to say he's stolen the series. He's going to be at Comic-Con this weekend, and through to demand they've managed to get him on for another day. He has been everywhere and for good reason too. And I know that the Metallica song is rising up the charts. I don't think it's going to be at the level Kate Bush was. That's not
No.
any disrespect to Metallica. That's like the defining song of season 4 now. Run Up the Hill.
Well, it's purely down to the fact that there's no lyrics in the part of Master of Puppets that they used in the TV show, whereas Running Up the Hill, everybody has a belt along to it. So I really do think that's the only reason. But what a tribute to Metallica! What an amazing scene! Oh, just incredible.
And credit to Metallica, who, like, obviously it's a social media team, but they've come out today, and you know when the Kate Bush song came out, this whole people gatekeeping their favorite musicians. It happens with film, it happens with TV, it happens with music, and obviously, like, Kate Bush doesn't really do interviews. I think she did one recent radio show. It's like her first public appearance in however long, and Metallica's social media team responded to someone commenting like, "We don't want any of these stupid Stranger Things fans here," and they just kind of said that we're amazed that the Duffer brothers took our work into consideration. We were really happy for them, for it to work, to be in to see the way it's used. So I like what Kate Bush put in her statement. They're not just picking a song and chucking it on. It's pretty integral to the events on the screen, and that's something that works in its favor. And Tate, me spoke between volume 1 and 2 that the shot from the trailer was Eddie with the guitar. We knew something was going to happen, but never knew what that specific was. And when you get to it, it's just such an incredible moment. And when he seals his fate as well, it's not even the point. He says, I didn't run this time. It's when he cuts the rope from Dustin, and like,
oh God, I'm going to cry just thinking about it.
It's such a great moment for him though, and it's just credit to the writing, because I didn't even think about he ran away the first time. I couldn't even consider that. I just thought he's just having this great moment, and when all the bats were swirling around him, I did get like Christian Bale vibes. Like, is he gonna like not become Batman, but just like do something insane?
I think you actually mean you were getting Morbius vibes, surely.
I've not.
Yeah, when
I've not
Eddie said it's Morbin time, that was when we knew.
But I know that Morbius uses the same soundtrack for that moment, because I remember seeing that. I'm surprised Zimmer didn't sue. I know that Charlie is our resident Morbius fan, the world's resident Morbius fan.
The world's Morbius fan, literally the only person.
Well, it's not the place for it, but I know you're a fan, and I know that you bought the film as well. So
I'm
encouraging physical media sales.
Yes, I'm carrying the fandom of Morbius entirely on my own shoulders, and I am happy to do it. Okay, it's a great film. Anyone who says anything different is wrong.
It's not actually been reviewed on the channel.
Oh well, I mean, if you need someone who's already seen it 5 times to come and review it, I will be that person.
It's fine. Maybe next year. Maybe we'll get around to it for the award season.
But anyway, like I said, Eddie, absolutely best new character of the series. We said this in the spoiler-free one as well, but absolutely Sadie Sink knocked it out of the park this series.
Oh, yeah.
Unreal performance, absolutely ridiculous, like the levels of her acting and stuff like that, even into the finale. I know that she had her episode, which was just for her, which was Dear Billy, which was phenomenal in itself. But even in towards the finale and stuff like that, the acting that she had in that finale, just the character and what the direction they've taken with Max is just so good. I do also want to point out Caleb McLaughlin playing Lucas.
Yeah,
ridiculously good performance. I know a lot of people have been
in
talking about people been chatting about putting him up for awards and stuff like that for his performance in the finale. But that is in tandem with Sadie Sink, because those two together on screen have such good chemistry. And during that scene at the end where she's kind of life is fading and stuff like that, and he is just desperate, and a lot of that was apparently ad-libbed. Like, he was given a couple of lines which he was meant to say and stuff like that, but he proper went full in, kind of like the get help, kind of the absolute kind of streams of tears and stuff like that between them. Just such a well acted and such a well performed scene.
Yeah, I think it's so nice that they've given Lucas something really juicy to work with. He's kind of been just there a lot of the time in the last 3 seasons, and it was nice that because the person at stake was Max, who obviously he has that romantic connection with, he was really given something really emotional and heavy to play with, which was so nice to see. And also, like, everybody loves Dustin. Dustin is the crowd favorite, but he didn't have as much to play with this time. up until the final episode, obviously with his scene with Eddie. But I think it was nice that they kind of swapped them around a bit, because Dustin had a lot to do in season 3, so it was nice to just kind of take the heat off him for this season. And I also think it's great to see the Lucas and Erica bond. I think Erica's brilliant. People really love watching her. She's such a good actress as well. But it's nice to see the brother-sister dynamic, and the fact that they, obviously, when we first met Erica, they were at each other's throats basically all the time, but now they've kind of become friends, which is really nice to see. But just to touch on the Dear Billy episode as well, I mean, to give us that level of emotional weight on the 4th episode, like, that was just incredible. And I'm so glad that they got now I'm not going to say his name because I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong, but I'm so glad they got Billy back, just at least for a couple of scenes, because he was actually locked down in Australia whilst they were filming, so they completely shot his scenes in Australia on location. Which is great, because they still, regardless of how many struggles they had in getting those scenes done, they still managed to do it. And he's done a lot of shout outs on social media to thank the production crew in Australia to make that happen. So I'm so glad that they did bring him back, and that Max really did have this inner turmoil that she had to deal with in losing him.
Yeah, it's really well said with Billy coming back, because obviously, you know, with the pandemic, we've had that. I think the Snyder Cut was the first one where they were filming like cross-continent, across webcams, weren't they? And obviously, Doctor Strange had the UK and US simultaneously shooting, and it's been really amazing seeing how they've been able to do it. And one thing I'll say to Strange Things, this doesn't diss it, but when the budget's of $30 million per episode, I think you can afford to help out one of your Australian cast members. Like, you don't. I understand if it's a small budget TV show, you might not be able to get that going and whatnot, but I'm glad they were able to do it, because it's integral to the series. And, you know, where Max goes, she's the character in question mark for next year. Is she blind? Is she got a backwards arm?
The Duffer brothers have actually, they did say something about that. They said that she is brain dead, blind, but like still alive.
Yeah,
at the moment as well, like that they won't just leave her in that state, I'd imagine. But what it does, and I feel this for the first time in between seasons, we have stakes heading into the new season. Which is
well,
what
we
you
did
need.
technically with Hopper in between 3 and 4.
Yeah,
but I suppose initially at the end of season 3 we thought Hopper was dead.
I was going to say the biggest stakes we've had previously was Will kind of staring into the upside down at the end of series 1. But that's the only time where it was like, oh, okay, this is continuing. Oh, okay, this is still happening kind of job. But this is kind of, I know it's not one of the original 4. It's not one of the original kind of cast members, because Max came in series 2. But at the same time, it's part of the gang. It's someone close to home. It's someone who's an integral part of the show, who's been not killed, but basically probably fate worse than death. Yeah, because they're still alive only because Elle basically revived her. She should be dead. In fact, she was dead. That kind of level of it. But no, it's a really interesting state to which they're going to go into the next series, because they kind of said in the show, Will still feels kind of Vecna kind of the presence, and he has the kind of the hair standing on his neck and stuff like that. And all the characters are in the same place. Hawkins is being abandoned by the droves, and it's literally just the army of the kind of core team, plus a few kind of extra people who, dare I say, are dispensable, will be dispensed of. And yeah, no idea where they're going to take it kind of from there.
It's really fascinating if that's so. Let's jump in the season. I just want to say really quick about Sadie Sink as well. I reckon they'll be submitting her for an Emmy for Dear Billy, because I know that Emmys, you pick an episode, you submit them through. I think they'll be wise to do it for that. And again, for a character that came in that's not one of the originals, I think she's had the best to do. And when you get to the finale, one thing I give the show credit for is attention. I thought she was dead. Like, I was crying. Like, you know, they said that. Her heart stopped for a minute. I was like, Lucas in that scene sold that, and I don't think he had as much to do this season, but everything built to him in that finale. And credit as well to Jason. I know the name of the actor that played him, but for creating one of the most like despicable characters I've seen on TV in such a long time. And the
Despicable,
scariest
but
thing,
at the same time,
he's so real.
real and kind of understandable because his
Yeah.
girlfriend's just being killed. He's just
Oh,
reading
yeah.
off the news that it's being a cult kind of taken over. It's not like Billy, who was, dare I say, an asshole character beforehand and sure has a redemption at the end. This is a character who is frightened and scared. I'm sorry, but if you see a person with their eyes whited out and like kind of going into kind of that state, and you've been told on the news that this club that has possibly killed your girlfriend is a satanic ritual club, and you're seeing that satanic ritual in front of you, I'm sorry, but if I'm holding a shotgun, I'm pulling the trigger. That's just genuinely, you're just like, everything's lining up. It makes sense. I'm, get rid of the problem. So you can completely understand his character. And I think someone said online, I was reading up on it, saying that he had both the most satisfying and unsatisfying death at the same time, with being of ripped in half by the Upside Down, which is kind of a fitting end for his character, who was kind of blinded and kind of went a bit too far with his kind of thing, but also unfitting because there's nothing there. It's just a kind of, he's dead now. Okay, moving on.
He made a comment. Sorry, Charlie, you're gonna.
I was just gonna say it did kind of feel like they were a bit like, what do we do with Jason? Like, has anyone thought about Jason? Because like he's still there in the room. So yeah, but it's just sliced in half. Whatever. He's dead.
Yeah.
Bye.
In his opening scene, he says hangovers. Your first hangover's like being ripped in two, so everyone's on the foreshadowing train. But I've just got to say, I want to ask you both this. A lot of people saying they didn't notice him die the first time they viewed it. Now, don't want to sound
it was quick.
I saw it
bragging, but
yeah.
I've got a big screen, where I watch it, and I was like, I don't know. I know it was very quick, but I found it pretty hard to miss it because you hear that scream as well. I don't know.
I think as well because our attention was on Max. Our attention was what's happened to Max, what's happening to Hawkins. Maybe it was a blink and you miss it kind of moment. And then, of course, there was no repercussions of his death afterwards. We didn't see a grieving family. We didn't see grieving friends. That it was just very much like Jason's dead. That's all that you need to know in this moment. So maybe that's the problem.
It's a bit like, whoa, Jason's dead. But at least when you have like, when you had Eddie die, like his dad's still there, and Dustin has the chat with his dad and stuff like that. And I think was it 2 people putting up missing posters? I saw there was like a missing poster being put up by the dad and stuff like that. So there is, we can talk about the theory. I do want to talk about one more thing first before we talk about the theories for what's going to go on. Probably the most overlooked storyline in the entire show this time round, because the characters were given a lot last series and they weren't really given much this series. But Nancy and it's one of those where we're discussing Hawkins and I completely forgot the fact that we had 3 people being strangled for 45 minutes, and that was a story point.
It's a devil's snare.
Yeah, it was.
We said that as well.
It was so odd. Steve is a fan favorite character. Everyone loves Steve, and taken from kind of the first series where he was a bit of an asshole to where he is now, where he is the babysitter, but he's also like one of the most lovable characters, and he has such good chemistry with everyone on screen. They didn't do much this series. Nancy had her one scene, like going into the finale with Vecna and stuff like that. Nothing came of that at all. Like they were like, oh, we have to get Elle. That's it. That was the only thing that came of that. We did have Robin with a small kind of subplot towards kind of building off her character last time, with her character admitting to Steve that she's LGBT, that she's a lesbian, she likes girls and stuff like that. And they do play off that this series. I do quite like the car conversation that she has with Steve at the very start. I think that was very good chemistry with them and stuff like that. But there wasn't really a big thing for them to do this series, I feel. And maybe it's the case of, because there's 3 different storylines, and even inside Hawkins, there's almost 2 different storylines going on there. That 3rd storyline shoved in there, it's so hard to keep track of everything, which is why I'm guessing the writing and editing team forgot about them for 45 minutes. But yeah.
What could they have really been doing other than panicking for their lives in that time? It would have been a bit boring just to watch.
But did they actually do anything?
I
in the
mean, they fought Vecna's body.
They didn't even kill Vecna.
They tried. You can't just kill. One does not simply kill Vecna. Let's just talk about the fact that Nancy is a totally badass female character. Like, she is so unpredictable. You see Nancy from season 1, you would not expect her to be sawing a shotgun in half in season 4. Like, come on, she's such a great character. But yeah, you're right, maybe just didn't have enough screen time. And also, aren't we a bit past Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan's love triangle? Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know who I don't even know who I want her to end up with, if I'm honest.
Steve kind of got over it. Steve got over it, and now he's back in again. And
yeah,
dare I say, it made sense because that Jonathan and Nancy were a part of this series, so it made sense that she'd be kind of missing that element of it. And yeah, it's like an extra thing on top of that. It wasn't really needed. There wasn't that extra romance needed in there.
But you know, it gave them all something to talk about, I suppose.
That's what I thought, that it felt so forced, the love triangle, because it was set in stone that Nancy was with Jonathan, blah blah blah, and obviously the way the series ends, Nancy's back with Jonathan, no questions asked as well. They're back together.
But there is definitely something weird between Nancy and Jonathan.
Yeah,
like the whole, are we okay? Yeah, of course we're okay, but I'm not actually going to give you a hug or anything. Like, it's a bit weird.
It's interesting, but the Steve's, I thought, I mean, I know that, you know, again, to go to Twitter, like, no one wanted Steve to die. I thought we were going to lose one of them three. I didn't think it'd be Robin because she's so new still. But I thought we were going to lose Nancy or Steve because they'd gone for the romance plot that I didn't think they would do. I was like, okay, they've spent a lot of time with this. And then I think that when Nancy's walking forward with the shotgun, I was like, no, she's done now. Like, game over. This is it. And obviously she survived to live for another season at least. But it's really interesting because, as I said, I just love spending time with Robin and Steve. Like, just chilling, them two talking, catching up, working on Blockbuster. I just like those sorts of things.
All these rumors of spin-offs and things like that, I kind of hope we get some kind of like mini series of Robin and Steve at college together or something. Like,
no, literally just a day of them working at Chips Ahoy was all we needed. Literally just one day.
And I think as well, because Steve had the not aggro with Eddie, but they had that divide, didn't they? That you were the popular one, I wasn't, and you know, didn't know which one was going to make it. And it is interesting with Steve because also you don't die because when there are fan favorites and there are like killing someone like Steve would be like hauntingly too far.
They'll never do it now. They won't do,
for a non-final season.
They might do it in the final series. They might do it, but they couldn't do it before the final season unless they really wanted people chatting. That's the only way.
Exactly. And I think if they brought Hopper back, they'd be like, well, we're going to get him back too, and all that kind of stuff. I'm glad they didn't do it. And, you know, one thing I want to say, this is more, I haven't said it much online, but this is a big thing that people go mad for. There's this modern media conception of obsession with death in TV and film. Like, you get to a final, I mean, I'm part of the problem because I've kept making jokes saying they're all going to die next year, but a lot of shows, people are like, I think Marvel's probably a perfect one. Like, do you remember, like, pre-Endgame? Everyone's like, they're all going to die. These are going to die, these are going to die, these are going to die. And obviously only, like, one did, which was Iron Man, which is why it worked, because it was the one self-sacrifice to save them all. And it's kind of interesting because I used to be like that, but now I'm like, in the stage that, okay, if it works for the story, keep them alive. If you're good enough, you can create tension by keeping them alive, not just killing them for the sake of killing them for dramatic stuff. And I do feel like, you know, the way they have, you know, as you mentioned, like Bob and Eddie, certain characters have come and gone. But I'm like, if they're going to do it next season, I sort of joke saying there'll be a massacre. I've honestly, like Endgame, you could probably get away with one big character in this momentous moment or something, and it could work in that respect. And it's really interesting because obviously, you know, we haven't really spoken about Vecna himself, but probably one of the breakaway villains of the year. Like, I'd say like an instant classic. I mean, I don't really watch horror films. I've never seen not Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street, and obviously this whole series is I mean, it could work, but obviously, like Freddy Krueger being like the main inspiration for this series, and I've just got to say, like, bringing him in for that guest role was probably one of the nicest sort of nods of the head, and actually to have been the victim the entire time is one of my favorite moments of the season. I just absolutely love everything we got with Vecna, from the origin again to the innocence of, I'm just going to keep saying Freddy Krueger, and obviously
Robert
ultimately
England
Yeah.
Robert
or
England,
Vincent Creel,
Vincent
whichever
Creel,
name
that's
you want
it,
to go
who's
for.
got no eyes. And when
Yeah.
the show was announced, everyone thought Creel was the main guy. He's got no eyes. He's going to be this horrific character, and it never was. I've just got to say, like, Jamie Campbell Barrow, I've not seen him in much, but he got the chance to actually
Incredible.
act.
He
This sounds
was
really
really
horrible. This is more of maybe a dig at Stans. People are acting like this is the first ever good performance by a villain in their lives. Like, have you seen a video of him doing the voice behind the scenes? Some people are acting like they've just like witnessed an Oscar-winning performance. I'm like, no, it's a very good voice. That's not.
Yeah, but you know
like,
it's him in the suit too.
yeah,
Like,
no,
all
exactly, and
the
it's
movement
really
work.
cool, and I love his
He's
commitment to it.
incredible.
I
And
saw someone put a photo of the Grinch suit next to the Vecna suit, and there was a lot of comparisons there. But
if I'm being blunt, I'll just say that I think one of Stranger Things' biggest weaknesses has been the villains, and I think until now we have it as Vecna. We have a character. We have not just this. This is a villain. This is a monster. Defeat it. We have a developed character, connections to a protagonist. You know, this whole story arc, and we got to see into his mind and how he is the way he is. I think it's the best thing they could have done. And you said it, I think, right at the video, Charlie. They needed it for this season. And heading into season 5, I'm really excited to see what his connection and his involvement's going to be, because it's got the potential to go really well, or it's got the potential to not work. And I trust them to make it work.
I was just kind of thinking back through the series, and this is the first villain that they can actually have a chat with. The first villain that actually communicates. Of course, like, we had the mind kind of flayer taking over Will, but like it's kind of through proxy. It's not like a direct kind of chat that you can actually have with the villain. It's not actual motivation for why it's happening. It's just happening in the previous series. And this recontextualizes the entire series. And it's phenomenal that they've been able to do that in the 4th series of this entire show. That they're able to turn around and go, here's the villain. And 4 series in, this is exactly why he is doing this thing. Like, even with Harry Potter, you kind of knew pretty much from, like, quite early on Voldemort's motivations.
Yeah.
Like, you knew why he was doing it and why he was kind of that way. But with this, to be able to come around and finally go, oh, here's our main villain, by the way, 4 series in, and also here's his motivations, and just having all of that context thrown into the entire series, I feel like it's going to be quite different rewatching it when I get round to it after seeing the series, and I think it'll make it seem better as a whole. Because there was that one thing of like connecting the series and connecting the dots, which was a little bit difficult previously, especially with the evolution of the villains. This time round, you have that one bit of connection that can be used for all of it now.
Yeah, and the clever part of their writing, which I know I keep talking about, but is their clear inspiration. Like, 80s slashers are obviously what they grew up watching. You can just tell, like, even bringing Robert England in to play that character, was everything about it is just a nod to the greatness of that subgenre of horror films. Yeah, okay, you can kind of take the piss out of them now because they're not that scary and they're actually just quite good fun. But Stranger Things is completely built on Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. I mean, there's even the most incredible Michael Myers cameo in when Max puts the mask on. It's just brilliant. I mean, I was cracking up. But it's just genius. And like you said, George, putting Robert England in, even when they made the announcement of the cast, if you were to say one of these new cast members is the big villain, everyone would have said, obviously, it's Freddy Krueger. Like, it's not going to be the guy from Twilight. What are you talking about? But it's just so brilliant. And I think Vecna is an absolutely brilliant villain. And I've also been singing Jamie Campbell Bower's praises for a long time. So I'm glad that he's finally been given a stage to perform on for everyone to see just how incredibly talented he is.
Yeah, I think Jamie Campbell, we spoke earlier, he's been in, Twilight, Harry Potter, he never had much to do in those. And one thing I'll say about Stranger Things, a lot of the younger actors, it's insane, he's probably in his mid-30s, if that. he's probably going to now get this big kickstart. That sounds like he hasn't done anything. He has done stuff, but now he's back in the limelight and he's had this role. I think more opportunities will come, like has the rest of the cast, and it's great to see. And with actors and the industry, you need a break like this. It's like what we spoke about earlier with Eddie. He's going to be instant classic character in one of the biggest shows of all time. And there's just going to be an insane amount of roles that open up and are made for him and whatnot, because there's just this natural charisma. And I think Jamie Campbell-Bower had that as a villain. I think villain roles are underrated. I think people make them out to be a lot easier than they are to do. But there's people also undermine the commitment it takes for them to spend 5-6 hours wearing that, getting in the makeup chair, to wearing it, to taking it off. That is an insane commitment alone in performance when we get him in his human form too. So that's a real big thing. And sort of heading into season 5 with it, I'm happy that we've still got Vecna. I don't think they've introduced a new villain. Maybe they're going to do like a side thing, like here's what was the Shadow thing before he met Vecna, but we know it's primarily going to be Vecna, and 1 versus 11 fighting for Hawkins is really what the show is going to be about, and rightfully so. But yeah, is that going to round out our thoughts on the three story arcs?
Yeah, I think so.
We spoke about it. I mean, if we're polite, we'll really quickly speak about our thoughts for season 5. I know we've sort of mentioned it here and there. I don't want to do predictions. It's early days. To me, my hype mainly comes from we know where the characters are. They're all in Hawkins. We know at the moment they're all alive, and we know what the threat is. The Upside Down is coming to the real world. Vecna with it. I don't need any other setup than that. I don't even need a trailer. I didn't actually see any of the trailers for this series, and I tend to avoid it for Netflix shows because it's a lot easier because you don't get them advertised on TV. We got the screeners, which we're very lucky to, but just to go in blind and watch 6 episodes was unbelievable. And I'm not saying we want screens for the next series. I doubt they'll hand them out because of spoilers, but any chance to be able to see these shows or to see it in a whole with it being a binge format is going to work for this. But if it's going to be longer, I know they said it won't be 12 hours, and they've said it won't be a weekly airing series. They've dismissed that. I'm just nervous about spoilers. So
I wonder if they'll try and do it. I was going to say, I wonder if they'll try and do it like they did this series, and they're just kind of dipping their toe into the water, because now they've introduced a Volume 1 and Volume 2 to part of the series. Do you think that they will have a Volume 1 and Volume 2 as part of the final series? They'll do it in the same format. If it's going to be 8 episodes instead of 9 episodes, they'll do 6 episodes, and then the 2-part finale.
Do a 7-1.
7-1.
Do a 7-1. The finale should be the spectacle, and it should give everybody an equal.
I think the finale should be available to watch in cinemas. I think they would absolutely make a killing with it. I think everyone would go and see it genuinely. And I've seen there have been TV shows that have done that before. I know Doctor Who's done limited release in kind of cinemas. Mandalorian's done limited release, so they have the capabilities for it. Yeah, I think that would be possible. As far as kind of my overall thoughts on the series, yes, I did say that Volume 2 wasn't as strong as Volume 1. This is still easily the best series they've done so far. Absolutely. A clear candidate for best series so far, and one of the best series of the year. Full stop. I don't even know if there's going to be another series that's going to beat it. It's been so well done. It's so well put together. Oh, The Boys is getting there. The Boys is, but we need to see if it sticks the landing first on this Friday. But this show is just such a big kind of cultural phenomenon now. It's just it's gone past its original kind of small Dungeons and Dragons kind of mystery TV show, and it's become so much more than that. And this series was kind of the epitome of that, because they had all these different storylines so far apart from each other. They pulled them all together. They introduced a villain for the series that kind of, like I said, is encompassing the entire series. Everyone's acting was absolutely top notch. The writing was brilliant. The twists, the turns, the heartbreak, the drama, everything was brought to the table here, including the special effects and the visual effects, which we didn't really even mention. But it felt very, very different from the early series. It felt a lot better. It felt like visually a lot better to watch and more appealing. Everything about this series was just satisfying to go through. Exactly what kind of, like, I think the world needed kind of to watch. And I think because this series, I know in small circles, this had a bit of hype going in and stuff like that. Coming out of it, I don't think this hype train's stopping. I think Series 5 could be one of the biggest kind of streaming events of all time, easily, or one of the biggest cultural events of all time, or at least modern history. I think it's absolutely phenomenal what they've done in this series, and I genuinely can't wait to see how it ends.
Yeah, I do hope they stick to the Volume 1 and Volume 2 format. I think it kind of had the feeling of event television because everybody had caught up on the 7 episodes, and then it was like, okay, today's the day, like let's watch the finale, let's see how this is going to end. So I hope they stick to that because it really, for me anyway, it really built the hype. It was nice that everybody was kind of going through those final 2 episodes together at the same time, whereas I think if you put all 9 episodes on at once, everybody's going to get through them in their own time. I don't think we're going to see any new characters in season 5. I think they've brought enough in at this point, and I think introducing new characters in the final season might be a bit too much of a risk, especially if it's ones that people aren't necessarily going to like. I don't think we've seen the last of Eddie. And I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to manifest it until it actually happens. Yeah, I think you're right, Tate. I think this could well be one of the biggest series, if not the biggest series of all time. I don't really know what's going to happen for the rest of the year. I don't really keep up with TV series that much, but I do think there's Game of Thrones. House of Dragon is due out at the end of this year. But then I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I don't really know what that's going to be about. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't want to wait 2 years. It's going to be absolute torture. But yeah, I think season 5 is going to be the one that everyone will look forward to.
I think the next big show on the status I'll put on a pedestal with Kenobi and Stranger Things in terms of hype, it's probably going to be Lord of the Rings. Dare I bring that up?
Of course.
When's Mando out? Because Mando's also
February next year. So
next year. Succession is next year.
Succession's getting very big.
That'll be next year. That'll be next year, I think, as well. So we're in a really good spot for TV because I was looking at our schedule recently. I was like, oh my god, there's so much TV that we're going to be covering. But yeah, this Kenobi, Lord of the Rings, probably the 3 biggest shows of the year. Boys isn't up there at all in terms of the status of it, but the quality of it, I do recommend people to have a look, and we'll have a review out for that at some point after the finale is done. But yeah, my only thing I'll say about season 5 and the hype is, I sort of tasted you, Charlie. I think the final shot of the show will be the painting that Will did of the load of them against the dragon. That's the sort of, I know it's very Star Wars Rebels-esque when you've got the thing on the wall. Yeah, but I think that will be the defining closing image of Stranger Things. And whether all of them make it out, we'll find out in a couple of years. But that's going to do it for our Stranger Things Season 4 spoiler discussion. I hope people liked it. We had a fair few people in the comments, sort of Fortnite fans. I don't know if we've had them on the channel before. A bit random, but a fair play. But we want to hear from you. If you're watching this later, if you're watching on demand, please do comment your thoughts on the series. As we said, there is no limits. It's spoilers. Comment your thoughts, your hypes, your issues. We had Griff, one of our good followers, tweet us today. His favourite character is Eddie. He was wearing an Eddie t-shirt, which is excellent. The one of him on, as you've all seen it, like him as with the guitar of the devil art painting. It looks amazing.
That will be my next purchase.
Definitely. So, as Stranger Things fans, we've got a playlist. We've got all the other season reviews in the description. You can check out a lot of them. We will be back when the Stranger Things does come back. But Tate, where can the people find us in the meantime?
The people can find us everywhere. So if you go onto Twitter and Instagram, you can find us by typing in @cinema_savvy. So both on Twitter and Instagram, and go onto Facebook or Letterboxd, and you just type in Cinema Savvy as well, and go into the link in the description for Redbubble. I haven't actually ordered from Redbubble yet, but I know I'm going to be ordering in a cap soon because I need a baseball cap for it. There you go, George, pull it out. There we go. Look at that.
There's the Star Wars one.
Loads of different designs on caps, and genuinely, I will also be buying a Cinema Savvy pillow, which will be propped up somewhere over there on my bed in the near future. I don't know what size I'm getting yet because they come in loads of different sizes, but genuinely think of it, and there's probably a Cinema Savvy thing on there. It's crazy, Redbubble, so go and find that in the description. Also, Charlie, would you like to explain yourself then for a minute?
I can explain myself. I'm not really all over the place. I'm basically just on Twitter at Funny Old World X. But if you want Eddie Munson spam, that's where to go.
Definitely. everybody, please follow Charlie on there. She's been a lot of videos recently. You're on Lightyear, Jurassic World. I feel like I've missed something else, but I don't know. But we'll have you on for a Spielberg
at this point.
coming soon though. We will have you on a Spielberg one because we are doing the Spielberg series. I know we couldn't get on for other Jurassic Parks, which is a shame. But you volunteered for Amistad, which is coming in a few weeks. But coming up first is Schindler's List, which is going to be released next Tuesday, the 12th of July. Tom joined us for that. I'm going to be blunt. That's probably the hardest video I've done in the 7 years doing these videos. So I actually really recommend tuning in just to see a discussion on it. It's pretty powerful stuff. So if you're a fan of Steven Spielberg, then 100% do check that out. And if you're curious, then it's worth a look. And in the weirdest juxtaposition, going from Schindler's List to Taika Waititi, Thor: Love and Thunder is out in cinemas tomorrow. That it's going to be a review on the channel. I think we'll have a time later on. And me and Tate are going to be on that one. We'll make it the spoiler review because there's going to be a lot to say. And
I still know barely anything going into it. I'm really intrigued.
Same here. I'm here for Christian Bale. I don't care anything else. Christian Bale, please. A lot more of him and Natalie Portman.
Not seeing the full Hemsworth, as Taika said. Full Hemsworth.
I
know what I'm here for.
if you like Hemsworth, go look at his Mad Max. Go look at his Mad Max behind the scenes photos because his costume for the new film looks insane. So yeah, check that out.
We get Hemsworth and Pratt in this film. I mean, I've died and gone to heaven.
And Natalie Portman and Christian Bale, which is the big two. Not to diss Tess Thompson either. But as I said, everybody, we'll have more reviews up. It's summer blockbuster season. Ironically, we're in our worst summer blockbuster season because there's not much coming out after Thor. But we'll have a lot of tier reviews. We said earlier, we're going to have the boys on the channel. There's a lot of other things happening. So as and when there are videos to announce, we've got a special interview coming with the composer at some point in the next week. And if there were any other interviews, we'll be announcing them on our socials, as Tate said. So do follow us on them. Links in the description. And as I said, thank you all for watching, for joining us tonight, and be sure to join us in the next one. So take care.